turn off your president.
Please do. Good evening, good evening, good evening. You are in the ladies' room with Nikki and Michelle. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Come into the room. Get yourself adjusted. Get your glass of wine, your coffee, whatever it is that you feel, your tea, that you feel necessary to have. We got some stuff to go through this evening. But before we do, I first have to acknowledge that I was a bit remiss last week when I did not mention the passing of our dear beloved brother, John Sims. If you recall a few episodes back, he was one of the guests on our show when we were talking about relationships. He gave a lot and contributed a lot to the discourse. And for that, I thank him. But for more than that, I thank our Father above for allowing us to have the time that we did have with John. He was, again, one of my classmates, class of 88, shout out. We are all in mourning over his passing. And I send much sympathy and condolences out to his sons, his family, his friends. And I just pray his spirit be accepted. So with that said, we're going to move on, Michelle. I think I hear something echoing. I don't know what that is.
It was me. I cut it off.
Oh, okay. So we'll get on. And hey, ladies, so far we have Miss Landy Hayes.
Hi, Landy.
Give a special shout out to Miss Landy, who was always here and pretty much always on time. And we hope that you will come into the room, like, share, add your comments, add your critiques, add your experiences, whatever you have to questions, whatever you have to lend to the discourse, we welcome, of course. But the most important part is to please add your affirmations, as we are here each week to lift each one up. So without further ado, we're going to talk about trauma. We're continuing our discussion from last week, and it is still very appropriate that we talk about trauma, because I know that half the country, definitely, maybe more, because as of now, it stands that Joe Biden has the popular vote, but we know at least half the country, or let's say less than half, because less than half would be the Trump side, but less than half the country, but almost half. Some of us are probably in trauma because you thought that you would have Trump as a winner today. And then the other half of us is probably in trauma because we thought we'd have some results by today. So either way it goes, we are experiencing some very traumatizing times now, because it is very unlikely that our democratic system would work in this way. But however it is, we're just going to make it do what it do. Michelle, say hello to the people. Hey, Michelle McDonald. I love you, girl.
Hi, everybody. I missed you guys. Can't wait to get into this discussion. I'm actually taking notes.
Yes. Okay, so then we'll get right back into it. Last week we talked about trauma and the effects of trauma, not just on women, but women and Black women in particular, because we have added layers of trauma that are contributed to our different intersections, like being a Black woman. When I say intersections, please let me just break that down, because everybody doesn't always know what an intersection is. But when you think about it, you can think about it just the way you would think of an intersection on a street corner where things meet. So when I talk about intersections, I mean where your different oppressions might meet, like being oppressed as a Black woman meets being oppressed as being a woman. That might also intersect with being poor. If you are a poor Black woman, it might intersect with being disabled if you're a disabled Black woman. So that's what intersections mean, where those different things collide in your life to add up to all these plural of oppressions. So with that said, I wanted to address trauma for Black women because everybody knows we all experience trauma in life, you know. Well, and let me just break it this way. Most people experience some traumatic event in their life at least one time or another. However, when you talk about an acute trauma, it might be, like I said, you experience one specific trauma in your life. It happens, it's difficult. You get over it, you move on, and you're on to whatever else life has to offer you. But when we talk about complex traumas, we're talking about trauma that is sustained over a period of time. And I'm not saying that other women or other groups of women don't experience complex traumas, because we all know that we do. But the complex traumas that Black women experience in particular because of skin color makes navigating systems a little bit more difficult than it would for other races of women. Because unfortunately in this country, that saying is so true. How they say it, if you white, you're all right. If you're brown, stick around. But if you're Black, stay back. And when you think about it, or you even take into consideration model minorities. Model minorities are supposed minorities, or groups of ethnic groups of people, like let's just say Asians, or even some Black minorities that come from islands, where people kind of put stigmas or stereotypes on those particular minorities that are not necessarily bad stigmas or bad stereotypes, but it's almost in a way that they do it to separate Black people born here from Black people born elsewhere, or other ethnic groups born elsewhere. So let me give you an example of that. An example of that might be that Chinese people are good with math. So where they get that particular stigma, and don't get me wrong, a stigma like that could be hurtful to them too, because what if you're a Chinese person who's just not good at math, but you're expected to be good at math? Well, that could cause you some trouble in your schooling or whatever area of your life, or maybe the standards that you're not living up to, you feel bad about, those kinds of things, that concept. However, when we talk about I really went way off, but I wanted to really kind of people understand why Black trauma is a lot different than other traumas, because in those other traumas, there's still this stereotypical thing. Not other traumas. In those other races or other ethnic groups, it is still this thing where they are able to kind of rise above their trauma, and they won't be looked at in a negative way. Whereas with Black people, when we fall to our trauma, or we wind up being in these situations where things like seem apathetic, we're seen as lazy, as shiftless, as no good, as dumb, instead of seen as a traumatized people. And not just a traumatized people, but a complex traumatized people, because we've been literally traumatized from generation to generation. And when you talk about trauma, it's not always direct trauma. It's sometimes indirect trauma. A perfect example would be if I'm a woman. We talked about this last week. If I'm a woman and I'm being battered by my husband, my kids may not be being battered, but they're experiencing my experience being battered is a secondary or a secondhand trauma to them. So those are the kinds of things that we we have to consider when we talk about trauma, and when we talk about trauma for the Black woman, we have to consider that this trauma started when we got off the boat, and it didn't end for us. Because if you had a grandmother, well, at our age, maybe it was a great grandmother who was subject to being brutalized, raped by an overseer or a master of a plantation, she may have negatively passed all of those emotions that she got from that experience to her children. So, without any cure, without any healing, without any treatment, without any counseling for that trauma, it went from that generation to the next to the next. And it comes out in different forms. So, we talked about last week PTSD, startled response that you have with PTSD. Those things carry on, and people think that they're just for the person who experienced it, but that's not true. It is also for the people who are around, for the people who are affected by the person who's experienced it, the trauma, and then from there they might traumatize. So it's like a vicious cycle of trauma that we're not healing as a people. And the reason that I want to connect all of that stuff, see, I'm trying to pull the pieces together, even though it might sound a little, all over the place, but I'm trying to pull it together because the reason that I'm trying to connect it to the Trump administration is because this administration has added such a huge layer of trauma to our already unhealed trauma. So the question is, how do we navigate that? How do we get through this? Because we, like it or not, we don't know who our president is today. And then tomorrow we might wake up and find out we got another 4 years of trauma. And then on top of that, if he doesn't get in, who knows what these cuckoos will do because he don't get in, which would be another form of trauma. So we need to figure out how we're going to navigate, how we're going to get through. What are we going to do to address some of the trauma from past and present? Because it's not really, I don't see it going away. I want to just I see some comments coming up, so I want to just acknowledge them real quick. And Michelle, you can acknowledge or say whatever you like, jump in.
I'm t-
I'm,
I'm
I'm,
I'm
I'm
still
still
low
low
key
key
trying to
trying to
process
process.
a lot of what you were saying, and I think that the whole idea of trauma, particularly in the Black community, male and female, is so deep rooted. So to your point, it goes all the way back to slavery time. We know this, right? It's been suppressed, we've been oppressed, and it bubbles up consistently. And you talked about intersections, and it's true because it happens. We walk around, we have already one strike against us for being Black. Then you add on to that a woman, or you add on to that a man, because Black men get it too, right? So it's just all that trauma. I think what we have seen over the past 4 years based on this administration is an uncovering, if you will. It's a bubbling up of something that was already there. It was already there, but we've talked about this before, right? Trump came in and gave those racists who had simmered down a little bit. It's like that pot of boiling water on the stove, right? It's bubbling over. It's bubbling over. See, and for years, all that happened was somebody turned down the heat. So the simmer was low. We didn't hear about things as often or as much. Trump came in and turned the fire all the way
All
up.
the way
And
up.
so all of these things are happening again. So I think the purpose of this show tonight, this platform, is for us to figure out how can we manage that trauma and come out on the other side. Right?
Oh,
That's where the conversation needs to happen. How do we manage that trauma and come out on the other side? Because you also mentioned like other ethnic groups, for example. Granted, they don't have the same experiences that we do, but they have those experiences nonetheless. Not to the same degree. Not to the same degree, but they also have them. But here's the thing. we also have to take some responsibility too, because what do those other communities and other ethnic groups do that we aren't doing, that enables them to kind of get together? When you go to certain part, if you go to New York and you go to Chinatown, they everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You go up in Passaic Park, them Jews is everywhere, right? And they're sticking together and they're doing their own thing. They're making their own. They're living in their own communities, and they're sustaining themselves. And so these are the types of things that we have to, first of all, I think, learn, like I said, how to handle that trauma and get to the other side, how to be self sustained, how to take care of ourselves as a people. Because if 2020 hasn't shown us anything, our government is not going to do it.
Mm-mm. Not at all.
Our government is not
So,
going to do it.
so let me just say this real quick. If you guys didn't know or even understand why it is that I just, well, I don't even think I partnered up with Michelle. It was just kind of like almost a symbiotic thing. It was very natural because we're friends like this. We talk like this all the time. But I love how she brings my stuff. So I hope that you guys get that, because sometimes I really can get all over the place because so much is going through my mind. But I love the way you kind of like put it all together for me. And that helps me to kind of guide my thinking, because here's the thing about trauma. I think, and this, I could be wrong. I mean, I think maybe we should be doing some studies on this, or somebody should. But I think the biggest part about the trauma that Black people experience that might be very different from other people's experience is that we don't realize we are traumatized. We don't realize that the trauma, see, because you have a lot of people who always want to negate our history from, in school, everywhere you go, everybody wants to negate the experience of the African American. Like, that's, oh, forget about it. So long ago. I wasn't around then. You wasn't around then. Your parents, nobody's here that participated in slavery. Yes, but nobody ever really addresses, redresses, or even talks about healing the wound that was there. Instead, they keep telling you to forget it. And the subconscious does not forget ever. So, and when I say subconscious, I don't mean in an individual way either. I mean the almighty spirit of the world, the God. The subconscious is always there. That's how come we know. That's how come we feel. That's how come we're so fragmented, because we're not addressing the trauma that the body instinctively knows. We are constantly trying to forget, instead of addressing the fact that we are traumatized people, and then figuring out a way to heal or get help healing for the trauma. And that's where we're not.
But you know what? I think that's also a part of the PTSD, right?
Mhm.
So I think we're aware that we've been traumatized to some degree, but I'll put it to you this way. So you just reminded me of a conversation I was talking to my father the other day, and he just turned 83. God bless him. Happy birthday, daddy. And we were talking about the whole election thing, right? And it was interesting to me that I was all passionate and riled up about it. And in true daddy fashion, he was like, Trump got you pissed off. Trump got you pissed off. But his response to it was really like, don't let it get you down. Ain't nothing you could do about it. Because they come from a generation where we had to get along, go along to get along, right? Just do what you can, do the best that you can, but don't rattle the waters too much, because you don't want to stir the pot. What we're experiencing now, why everybody is giving so many props to the millennials, I believe, is because now we're seeing a generation who's saying, I'm not accepting that. It's not enough for you to tell me what I can't do. No, I'm coming out. I'm voting. I forgot what they said the statistics were of the young people that got out and voted this year. You got young people now who's just not accepting no for an answer. So it's my hope, it's my prayer that these young people are going to pick up the torch and carry it. They're going to turn the corner. They're going to say, no, okay, you're not going to let us do this fairly. We're going to do our own thing. Where many, of this and generations before were not inclined to do so.
Well, I would partly disagree with that because your father's generation, because they are the generation of, the civil rights era, they did do that. They
Yeah,
they did that. They got out there. They were sick and tired of being sick and tired. Every time I think about Fannie Lou Hamer, something flips in my spirit. I owe so much to that lady. But when you think about those people, that generation, they did do that.
yeah, they did. They
I,
did.
I think what happened with that generation is they fought so hard and they made such progress that they almost did not want us to have to go through what they went through. They wanted us to have this kind of like easy going life. And so therein, they taught us to kind of don't muddy the waters, just go along and get along, do your best.
Mhm.
And we thought that this was really, really, really going to work. But here's the whole thing about trauma. Trauma is like having internal bleeding. So when you have internal bleeding, sometimes you don't even know you're bleeding to death, but you literally are bleeding to death.
Right.
Everything outside looks really good. You might still be able to do a few things until that one day when it just ain't working. And it's a make or break. And the internal bleeding could either kill you or you can get help just in a nick of time and be saved. And so what I think this generation is going through is they're at this point where, okay, we've been bleeding internally for a long time, especially since the crack epidemic.
Mm.
We've been bleeding for a long time. And now they feel like this is time for us to wake the hell up, recognize that we're bleeding. There's trauma here. We've been ignoring it for too long. And so if you notice that, it's all coinciding with even the idea that these kids are more interested in Black history than I ever seen. My generation, I know, and I know for sure because I'm not trying to put nobody on the spot, but half the people I deal with don't know nothing hardly about Black history.
Right.
Nothing, because they call me and ask me about it. Because our generation, it just wasn't a thing to be interested in your history.
And we already know they weren't really teaching it in
And
school.
it wasn't.
I took Black history for that reason. I took it when I said, "Oh, there's a course called Black History. I want to take that class." And they still didn't teach. I in my opinion, they still didn't teach the Black history that needs to be taught
Mhm, mhm.
in a
Right,
way that it needs to be taught. I'll put it that way.
exactly. So I think that's kind of where we need to go when we think about trauma, because um, it's the mental trauma that is really giving us a really hard way to go, making it very difficult for us to pick ourselves up and go on. Because mental trauma, and I don't know if I said this last week or not, but here's where what I'm thinking, that the mental trauma contributes so much to your core beliefs. And then it's your core beliefs that guide your behavior. And
I
so
agree with that.
if the mental trauma has taught you to be apathetic, then your core belief is that there's really no reason for you to fight because you will constantly be knocked down. So if that's your state of mind, that's your state of being, that's your core belief, then why are people expecting you to do so much movement? Where is that? You don't have that. The agency is not there. You're not wanting to move because you really feel that no matter how much you move, you're not going to progress. When you look at somebody like a Barack Obama and all that he has accomplished more than most white men put together could accomplish in 3 lifetimes.
That's my president. That's my president.
President too. And yet the amount of denigrating and just the way he was treated and the way he's still being treated. For some, if you look at somebody like that and then look at your regular everyday I'm going to work life and you compare those two together and you say to yourself some and I'm not saying all people, because our people we are very, very good at picking ourselves up, dusting ourselves off and moving. That we're good at that sometimes. So I'm
Mhm.
not saying this is all, but for too many, the burden of having to compete with somebody like Obama, right? In your everyday life, and then live up to, it's just too awesome for some of them. And they feel like if they could knock him down, what are they going to do to me? And I just work at the UPS. You understand what I'm saying?
Well,
So
I do, but it's almost to some degree, and just hear me out because I want to see if you agree with that. It's almost like comparing apples to oranges, right? What Obama did was big. He was on a national platform.
mhm,
Okay. But I think what he did, well, and what we can do as lay people is living his example, right? Living the example that no matter what was thrown at him, no matter what they said about him, he kept it regal, he kept it classy, he kept it dignified, and he kept doing what he was doing. So yeah, it comes down to, yeah, I'm in the office with regular people every day. I'm at my job at the UPS. I'm at the postal service. I'm in the hospital, wherever you work, right? And I realize that I may not be being treated fairly, but I'm gonna find ways to elevate myself. But I'm gonna do it with
dignity.
dignity and class and respect. You know what I'm saying? And so that's how we get there. Everybody is not going to be meant to be seen on a national stage. It's, I think about all these productions, all these TV shows, all these people get all the credit, right, for being the host or being the this and that and the other, but that show would be nothing without all the people behind the scenes. So everybody has a part to play, and everybody should play their role with dignity, right? So I don't care if you're the janitor in the building or the owner of the building, you do whatever it is with pride and excellence. Now,
Right.
that being said, we have to continue to walk in that truth in order for all of us to elevate, if that makes sense. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Because we're not all going to reach the level of no Barack
So
Obama.
no, so I think maybe you might have gotten it a little mixed up. I'm not saying that they're compete pairing their lives, saying that they got to meet that standard. What
Right.
I'm saying is that people, if you could knock down a Barack Obama, imagine how people feel about the ordinary working person that is sometimes they feel like they're being knocked down when they're doing their best. They're playing their part. They're doing what they're supposed to do. And let me be quite honest with you. And this is this is me. This is me. I'm gonna be very honest with you. I don't know. This is kind of a sidebar, but it is what it is. I have always kind of in my spirit knew that whatever it is that I wanted to do, I could do. I mean, I put no holds on my own life. I know
Hmm.
that. I always used to say it. There was a one time in my life when I could have been the Beyonce of my time.
Okay.
So I put no holds on my life except the holds that I want to put. Because there are some things, and I kind of think I heard you say this at one time, Michelle. I love achievement. I love doing different things. But there's some things that I don't want to do because I don't want to have to work that hard. I'm keeping it. What the kids say, I'm keeping it real. I'm keeping it real.
Yes.
There are some, I don't want to, I could never be a Michelle Obama because that's just too much for me.
Yeah.
I need a good little 8 hours nap. If I can't get 8, I'll take the 5, but I'm gonna have a nap later on. Those kinds of things. That's daunting to do that. So I'm not trying to do that. But what I'm saying is, you still want the opportunity to do whatever it is you do without feeling oppressed all the time, without that thing hanging over your head. That I mean, like just the microaggressions alone that people experience on the everyday basis
Absolutely.
is just
Absolutely. I've
insurmountable.
actually had that very argument with somebody because I think it's misinterpreted that people feel like black people want some sort of a handout. We don't want no handout. We just want to be treated fairly and equal. I'm not asking you to give me anything,
Right, right,
right? I just want to know that I'm going to be judged or rated on the same merits as my white counterpart or whomever. That's all I'm asking you for. And then don't come up with this bogus reason, this bogus excuse as to why I can't get the promotion, over some nonsense that you and I both know is not true.
exactly.
So when you talk about those subtleties, those microaggressions, that's what it is. That's what it looks like. Well, you did really well. We really liked your presentation. We really liked you in the interview, but this is what we're doing. So
Right.
those are, and it just continues to play on the psyche of that
Here we
deep
go.
rooted
Here
oppression, and it goes over and over and over again. So now we start to question. This whole movement has to be what turns us around, because we know better. We
exactly.
absolutely know better. I know good and well I did a better job than that next person.
Right.
I know I did. And that's not cockiness. That's not arrogance. That's confidence. And because I know I put in the work, I worked hard. And
Right.
so now you gonna sit here and tell me in my face that I'm not getting that job, that this, that the other thing, because of some, well, it all came down to, and it's always something petty. You know better. You
Right.
know better.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
so that's the part that we are constantly fight. That's the unfairness. I don't even know if that's a word. That's the unfairness of it all. That's the frustration of it all. That's where the trauma starts to set in, because it's exhausting.
It's
It's
exhausting.
exhausting, and you get to the place where it's like, why am I fighting so hard? Because
Exactly.
I'm fighting and fighting, and it's age old. We've known forever. Our parents and elders have told us, if you black, you got to work 3, 4, 5 times as hard to get half as much.
Hmm. Right. Right. Just read Martina's statement real quick and
As weird as this may sound, I was a battered wife on a couple levels and really didn't see myself as much. A medical professional had to walk me through that to understand that why I felt that way, because I fought back. I felt it weak to be considered battered. I think this is the same mentality that some of us have as black folk. We don't realize we suffer from PTSD because we see it as weak. It's not weak.
so but what
I
Martina is
know what she's saying. I
speaking
know
to,
exactly what she's saying. But go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
so she's saying exactly what I'm trying to explain to us as a people, and why it might be, or it might appear as if we don't do as well as other model minority groups. And that is because we literally are walking around traumatized and have not really taken the time to understand and realize that we really are traumatized.
Hmm.
Every time a black mother witnesses a shooting of somebody's child in the street and knows that that happened because that somebody's child is black, she's traumatized, because in her mind, she's thinking this could happen to my son, my brother, my father, my friend, my husband. And that's a trauma that you cannot escape. And the only thing that you can do is recognize that that's a trauma and do what you can to heal from that trauma. So Christy and I the other day were talking about uh oh god, I don't know what's wrong with my mind, but I forgot. But anyway, we were talking about this I got the book right here somewhere. I got a book on it because I was showing somebody. But anyway, we were talking about, it was, anyway, it's a form of therapy to get you to focus now in the moment. And a lot of times we're so caught up in our trauma and we don't realize it. We cannot stay in the moment. We cannot enjoy or really absorb the fact that in this moment, let's just say in this very moment that I'm in, I'm safe, I'm breathing, I'm healthy, I'm talking, I'm communicating with people, you communicating with me. In this very moment, all is perfect. But when you spend so much time being hyper reactive, experiencing your PTSD, and you don't even realize it, you're not going to stay in this moment. You do everything to not be in this moment and really appreciate what's in this moment, like drinking, drugs, overeating, being on the phone all the time, smoking, all of those kinds of things, because you're so hyper vigilant. You're trying to really create this God damn it, I can't believe I can't remember the name. My mind.
Christy put out here mindfulness.
Thank you, Christy. Mindfulness. Dang, that's a shame that my mind is like that. But anyway, mindfulness, exactly. So because you're so caught up in all of these emotions, these feelings, that sometimes people don't even realize why they have them, because they don't take the time to sit with a counselor or sit with a therapist and peel these layers back to recognize the trauma. But the trauma is still sitting in there, because I'm telling you, the subconscious never forgets. It knows. It's always awake. It's always functioning. And your conscious mind is not aware of it, but your subconscious body is reacting to all of that trauma. And because of it, you're doing everything in the world to not be in that space, be in that state, being in that moment. And these are things that Black people need to understand, that we're going through, so that we could get healing for, and then it'll help us to move forward, because it'll help you to be able to stabilize your mind and your body enough to do the things that you want to do in life, so that you can say, okay, you can call me nigga all you want to. Long as your nigga is not stopping me from getting what I need to get, go ahead and do what you got to do. But it's hard for us to do that, because
Why though?
we're not aware of the trauma. That's it. Point blank, period. We're not. We're so unaware of the trauma. Here it is, and this is why I'm saying that in this age of Trump, is we got to be mindful of it. We're so unaware of our own trauma that when Trump inflicts trauma on other Black women, we internalize it and we go crazy. So here's some of the traumatizing things he's done to Black women in the past couple of years. Kamala Harris. What did he say? She was a mad woman, and that what he said? She was a mad woman and she was a monster.
A monster, yeah, that's what I was looking
Right.
for.
He called April Ryan nasty. Stacey Abrams. He called, of all people, he called her unqualified. This young lady has one of the most brilliant minds I've seen come out of the African American community in a long while. He calls her unqualified. She could probably think around his ass 2 and 3 or 4 times.
Please.
He called Maxine Waters a lowlife. He called uh Yamishi Alcindor a racist. Come on. So when we hear him do these things and we witness these things, it is adding to our already unhealed trauma. So what I'm saying is, we have to find a way to coalesce, especially as Black women, and peel back the layers of what this trauma has done to us, so that we could move forward. What it's done to us, what it's doing to us now, so we could because when you recognize trauma from the door, ain't it easier to kind of avoid it? I mean,
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So here's the thing, right? As you was saying all that, I think the first step when we talk about, because we keep talking about we have to find ways, we have to find ways. I think the first step is to acknowledge it.
that's it. There we
Right?
go.
That's where you have to start, because you can't fix what you don't acknowledge. That's the
Exactly.
first thing. You have to make sure that you're aware of all the things that we're talking about. Then you could take it a step further, because you already know, Nika, I'm a process. I will analyze something down to its core. Okay. Now that I know that this behavior happens, this behavior exists, now I also have to consider the source.
Mm.
See, it gets to the space where, if I were to ever get into a conversation with Donald Trump, I don't believe he could truly offend me, because I know where it's coming from. And I can't take anything, nothing comes out of your mouth carries any weight with me. So I can't be offended by what you say. Not to mention the fact I'm smarter than you. So I realize that this is one of your frivolous ways of trying to attack my character and do exactly what we're talking about. You trying to break my character, you trying to break my mind, you trying to break me down so I don't think as much as myself. You trying to make me you
Exactly.
trying to convince me that I'm weak and so that I can't perform. You trying to convince me that I don't have the qualifications. You're trying to convince me that I don't deserve to be at this table with you. You're trying to convince me that I don't deserve to be in this arena, and that's not what's gonna happen, bruh.
Right.
I'm 10 steps ahead of you already. So knock it off and cut it out. So
Exactly.
that's what it's all about. When you know that these microaggressions take place, when you know that these things are happening, when you know you deserve to be in that room, at that table, in that arena, in that situation, in that circumstance, right? Then you got to hold your own. And sometimes it gets uncomfortable. My boss think I'm crazy.
Why?
Well, because we have not these kinds of conversations, but I remember an example very specifically where I was trying to do something, and you know, I was trying to work on a project, I think, and he ended up giving the project that I wanted to work on to somebody else and gave me some lame reason. And I looked him straight in the face and I was like, okay.
Mhm.
He was like, "What? You want to say something?" I was like, "I mean, come on, I would do a better job, but it's your decision, so I can't dispute it." But that was my way of letting him know I see you.
Mhm.
I see what you're doing. I know what you're doing. It's not going unnoticed, right? But I need my job because, she got bills. So I wasn't going to do anything that was going to jeopardize my job. But it was important for me to walk out of that office letting him know that I know what you're doing. I see what you're doing, whether you want to acknowledge it or not. But I promise you, he sat with that for a minute. I
Mhm.
promise you he did. And very soon after, called me with something. Oh, I got something big I need you to work on. Here we go. Here we go with the shenanigans,
See, and the
right?
thing is, the great thing about like having spaces like this is because you have to admit that everybody don't know that. Everybody don't recognize that. I'll be honest. There was a time in my life when I recognized something was going on, but I didn't know exactly what it was. Shit, I didn't even know what the word microaggression really was. To be honest with you, I wasn't always educated. But anyway, I didn't always know what that was. All I knew was I went home and I was angry. That's it. I didn't know what I was traumatized by. I didn't know none of that. And so when you peel back layers on trauma and show people exactly where trauma comes from, what it looks like, so that they know where it's coming from, what to do about it. They could do things like what you did in that situation and say, okay, and be okay with it, because
Right.
sometimes if you don't address it, that gives you even more turmoil than the
And that's what I learned. Now, don't get me wrong. It took me a long time in corporate America to learn this. Like I've been working in corporate America for, when I think about since college, right? So I'm 20 some years old. That's how long I've been working around these people where I absolutely had to learn, like, what is this? And everybody know I was sheltered. But I had to learn what that was and then learn how to deal with it, because exactly what you just said is what happened to me. I would walk away with my tail between my legs, not understanding why I was feeling some type of way, let people get away with saying certain things. But I was also very aware that I couldn't do the whole, here we go again, the whole angry black girl thing, right? Because I didn't want it to be seen as that. I want you to know that I'm intelligent enough to see what you're doing, and now I had to teach myself how to respond to it. Listen, I had a situation. I had a situation. Um, I had a situation when I had gotten engaged one time. When you talk about microaggressions, right before me and Zeke got married, I had my rings on. I'm at work. And the whole typical work scene, right? Oh my God, congratulations, you got engaged. And da, 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 da. So this lady, my coworker, white lady, gonna look at my ring and say, "Oh my God, it's gorgeous. Is it real?"
ooh, so you got to know how to respond to stuff.
Exact. So I said, I looked at her, I stopped. I stopped and I looked at her and I said, "Now why wouldn't it be real?"
Hmm.
But I was very careful with my tone,
Hmm.
right? Because I was ready to pop off and be like, but I
Right.
was like, why? But why wouldn't it be real? Why would I accept a fake ring? I mean,
Right.
I sincerely doubt my husband would do that, but why
Hmm.
wouldn't it be real? Do you think my husband can afford? Like, where did that even come? And I forced her to look and see why she asked me that question. Is that, would you have asked this person that question? Would you have asked her that question? You see what I'm saying? I forced her into that moment. I forced her into that moment to really think about why you asked me that question.
Exactly. So let me just address this comment. This is coming from I forget to let people know that we're on another platform. And so I can't see who TMC 803 is, but they're saying that they respect our feelings, but the rage towards Trump is misplaced. You have to further elaborate on that, but I could tell you that for me, the rage is not misplaced, simply because, and I'll just explain to you the way we explain, and we've been explaining to just about everybody. No, we definitely understand and recognize that racism, microaggressions, additional traumas did not start with Trump, but he has done the most, especially within this modern day, since Bull Connor. He has done the most to ignite that fuel of racism that is coming back to destroy this country and to destroy Black people in particular, but just about any and every other, or as they say, the other, any and other racial, and ethnic group here in America. He is literally the poster child for white supremacy. He has emboldened white supremacists and anarchists and militia groups all over this country. And that
With
is,
all his nonsense conspiracy theories.
yes,
Sorry, I had to interject that.
you're right. And that is a direct threat, a direct physical threat to our country, not just to Blacks but to whites.
And TMC 90803, it looks like she might be from Periscope. I would love. Oh, here she comes.
Yeah, yeah. She disagrees. She respects our opinions, but yeah, we're allowed to have it. But thank you for allowing us to have it. But
Well,
the
well,
truth is the
t-
truth.
but where? Okay, so I would like to know then, where should our aggression be placed?
Good, great question. Great question.
Right,
Thank
because if it's misplaced on Trump based on the examples that we've given you,
you. Right.
then where and how should it be placed? While you typing that, you could go to the next comment.
Exactly. I wanted to go back to Slicky News comment where she says she can relate. They believe that you are undeserving. She's talking about you with the ring.
Well, the ring with the ring, and I agree. And the ring was just one example, but it continues. All any and all of this all stems from that oppression from way back when. But here's the fact of the matter, in my opinion. Here's the fact of the matter, in my opinion. Here's the real. Here's the real. Here's the reality. Deep down inside, I believe they know. Deep down inside, I think they know what we capable of. I think deep down inside, they know if we were given the same equal opportunities, that
Yes.
we would absolutely soar.
Mhm.
And then how would that look? Right? How would that look?
How
So
would that?
let's keep you oppressed. Let's keep you doubting. Let's keep you not believing in your capabilities for as long as we can, and let that be. We know what we're worth.
Exactly.
We
Well,
know what we're
well,
worth.
let me just say this.
Well,
Most of
I do.
most of us know what we're worth, but some of us don't. Herein lies the reason why we need to continually beat that drum, educate, influence, just and let people know we come from a mighty stock. But if they don't know that, and then on top of that, they walk around continually being traumatized and reliving trauma, then you'll continue to have this what they I don't even like to use that term black on black violence. That's a stupid ass term because crime is relative to where you live, and you commit crimes to where you live. So white people commit crimes against white people. So we don't walk around saying white on white crime. So I don't know why we say black on black crime. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. The truth of the matter is, like you said, Michelle, just think of it. Look at Barack Obama and look at uh, President Trump, right? President Trump was born with any and everything anybody could ever have in life, and even granted a how many $1 million start. Barack came up with nothing, not even really a father in his life. Raised halfway between his mother and his grandparents. Black man. And look what he's accomplished. And almost half the time that this man has. Because Trump is a whole lot older than Obama. So when you look at that, and when they see that, they are threatened by that. And guess what the best thing to do is? Acknowledge that. Acknowledge those feelings. That you feel this way, so that you could move on and stop creating chaos throughout the world because you mad at a people who just doing what God granted them to do.
I had a really intense conversation literally this week, just the other day. As a matter of fact, I think it was Tuesday. It was literally Tuesday because it was the night before the election with a staunch Trump supporter.
Well,
And
let me just introduce this, because look, we have a lot of information, misinformation, and I promise it's not just one side. But here's the deal. Whatever information you have to dispute the information that we're saying, please add it. Don't keep saying we giving you information.
I mean, really,
provide the information that you have to dispute
what are we misinformed about?
Nothing. And if we are,
And listen, let me just say to TMC 90803, on this platform, we all about sharing information and sharing experiences. So if you have something that you want to say that disputes how we feel, let's get that dialogue going, because that's what we need. And I'm open. My ears are open. I'm not just going to agree because you said it, but if you say something that makes sense, because you got to make it make sense.
Right.
You say something that we'll consider it, we'll talk about it, we'll dialogue. That's what this is all about. So we welcome you. We welcome your comments. Please send them through.
Exactly. Thank you. So, and I don't know who or what TMC 90803 is, but this platform is to uplift women. So I don't know if you're a woman, I don't know if you're a man. It's to uplift women in general. And the information that we share with each other is strictly for that purpose. If there's any information that we are saying or sharing that you feel is not uplifting, you need to kind of bring your evidence to dispute that. And we have no problem listening to it or taking it in. But again, we're here for the healing. That's what we're talking about. And we're here to let people know you have to recognize what the trauma is before you can get the healing. And for millions of Black people, Black women in particular, Trump is a source of trauma, whether you want to believe it or not.
Exactly.
That is our experience. If it's not your experience, then look, as they say, if it don't apply, let it fly. This might not be a tube for you.
It goes back to liberals were historically innately the party of racists. That's what she said.
Well, that don't make sense.
Republicans are portrayed as it now as a smokescreen. How is it a smokescreen when we hear what's coming out of his mouth? I don't understand.
See, here's the thing. Please don't come here, because with this again, this is not the space for going back and forth. But if you're gonna come on here, please know your history, because I know mine. So we all know that the Republican Party started out liberal. That's the party of Lincoln. But we all know that in the 1960s, it changed with Barry Goldwater. So that's when the Democrats, Black Democrats, fled the party. So don't come on here with the silliness back and forth, because guess who know their history now? Thank you.
Well, she said he or she said they're a history
whatever
major.
You are a history major. Put them facts out on the table, because we're not going to come up here and go back and forth about Republican and Democratic Party, because truth be told, neither one of us them have done much of anything for Black people in this country. That's number one. But number two is The trauma that we are experiencing right now, right this moment, is coming from Trump, the Republican and Tea parties. If they hadn't been able to be so emboldened in this country, I guarantee you, Trump probably would have been able to walk his ass right into this office with no problem.
Mm. I think it kind of goes back to the conversation that I was starting earlier where I said I had a conversation on Tuesday with a staunch Trump supporter, and he just kept going told because he already knows that I'm not a Trump fan. So he's like, "You don't like Trump, do you?" I'm like, "No." And we started going back and forth. What I find that's happened with this administration in particular, they love to say the Democrats are doing it. They love to say the Democrats are doing it, but they take everything that comes out of this camp and they just regurgitate it. Oh, first thing out of his mouth. Oh, the economy has gotten so much better since was in office. That had nothing to do with Trump, though. It had
Right.
nothing to do with Trump.
Obama
You
set
can
him
care to acknowledge it or not, but that was all Obama's doing. It was all the
up right.
work and all the effort that Obama did that just manifested itself because he ran out of time and then he started to reap the benefits and try to take credit for it. Then
Not
they want to
that
go ahead.
Obama was blocked by the Republican/Tea Party for his entire time in office.
Exactly.
So we can't
Exactly.
forget about it. But here's the most important part, because I don't want to even get into the
Oh, here we go. When it could go, when it could go, when it could go.
Democrat and Republican is not really an issue for me. Like I said, this here we're about healing and uplifting. The part for me is humanity. And whenever you have a man in office who has done everything antithetical to a humane society, he has to go.
Mm.
Locking kids up in cages is inhumane. Calling out his white supremacist friends to stand by and stand back is not humane. All the things that they claim is so conservative and Christian like, he is antithetical to each and every one of them. So I don't understand what the fervor is for him. He has not done anything that even halfway looks like a conservative. Our national debt is through the roof. Republicans, they hate to spend unless it's spending on them, on their rich friends. But so I don't understand what they're talking about when they say liberals versus conservative. No. How about humanity? How about having a heart for the people who are supposedly citizens of the United States? How about that?
How about not lie to the American people about a
People,
global
right?
pandemic
Exactly.
and then catch it and say it's just gonna go away. It's just gonna
Right.
don't be afraid of it. And then you got people dying left and right. Matter of fact, I got a message today. Somebody else I know got COVID
Right.
today.
And I want to know, okay. It says Republicans care about individual rights and their creator. Again, what proof do you have that shows that not only do Republicans, because they don't care about the creator, because if they did, they wouldn't do everything that's so antithetical to what they call as Christ-like. Because Christ will not leave starving children everywhere. Christ don't leave kids locked in cages. Christ didn't take kids from their parents and now they can't find the parents. That's not Christ-like. That's not for the creator. So I'm just so I'm really baffled by all of these claims that they make for the Republican Party, because it just don't make sense. And then everything they say is really a projection. Everything they say about Democrats is a projection of what they actually do. Now
That was
that's
my
what we
point.
know. That's what we know for sure. So uh we love you all too. We love everybody, but we want everybody to play fair. That's number one. And we want everybody to have an equal opportunity in this country to be able to do the things that their creator endowed them to do. when that's not happening, I mean, what would you expect? You think that we supposed to love people who are constantly trying to oppress us and kill us? That's a I mean, I know that now that is Christ-like, but that's a hard thing to do. That's a hard
And
thing.
I'm always confused when people say that we are spun up in a web of lies and disinformation. My whole response to that is I'm not going by all the policies I mean, I'm some of it I am, right? Because we want what's right for all people. But I can't get away from, like you said, Nick, the humanity. I'm
Human-
not going by all I'm going by what I see, by what he says, by the way he behaves, by the way he acts. I have no faith in this man whatsoever. I have no faith in his ability to want what's best for me and my family and my people and all people, for that matter, all people. We want fairness for all people. I don't trust him to do that, and so he can't be my president.
ex-
Period.
Exactly. Exactly. You see this comment here. We are totally traumatized. Traumatized. My daughter having dreams of white extremist groups coming to our door and burning down our house. That is a real thing for some black people. This is a real thing. And when you don't acknowledge that these are real experiences for us, you negate who we are as humans, period.
Hmm. Trump has to tell some hard truths
What's the hard
sometimes,
what's the hard truth? The
like a
hard
friend
truth
would do. A bad person cons you instead. But
he's
that's exactly what he
you. That's what he's
did.
conning you guys. He's conning you guys. He's
And that's
conning you
exactly
guys.
what the hard truth. Here's a hard truth for you. Here's a hard truth.
And you've been conned.
America, there's a pandemic among us. We need to react. We need to deal with it. We need to get with science. We need to do what's best for everybody. I'm sorry. I know you don't like it, but we're going to have to shut down. We're going to have to do what we have to do. And so in order for the con came out because he told everybody it's just
It's
going to
gonna
go
go away.
away. It's like a miracle. It's just going to disappear. It was a lie. It was a lie.
Yes. The con is that you tell a lie, but you really knew all along how
That's
damn
the con.
that's the con.
Con man Don. That's what my husband called him. Con man Don.
That's the con. Yep. The con is telling the American people that the economy is so much better under your watch when you know that it
That's
was
not
given
true.
right and it was given to you in perfect condition from the last president. Then you get it, you take credit for it, and guess what? The economy really is not doing good as a whole. It was just doing good for the stock market. If you too poor to own stocks, guess what? The
Ha!
economy's not doing
Come
good.
on, somebody.
Now, how about that? So he's
Now, how
conning
about
you
it?
all. So while you all walking around thinking that he helping the economy, he really helping rich people. And you think that trickle down economy, I mean economics works, but it don't
A
because
stimulus check don't make you rich.
it sure don't. It sure don't. I mean, what could I say? I hope that people will listen and just not only just listen, but think about it. Think about what me and you are saying, Michelle. Aside from any other thing that's gone on in his office, this man has really championed for some of the worst things that you can think of from a free and democratic society. And when you just the election alone, now here's I know we going overtime, but
Way over.
we gonna go for a minute. But here's the thing: the election alone. Now just think about this and think about how silly you have to be not to really understand this or even just it's too simple. The fact that this man had his friends jeopardize the postal service, right? He tells everybody don't mail in your ballots because the mail-in system is a fraud. So then when the election is called and everybody that comes to walk in is going good for him. But when they finally get all of those mail-in ballots, he's gonna say, oh, they cheating because ain't nobody sending no mail-in ballots for him. Well, you damn fool, you just told them not to send in. So now all these millions of mail-in ballots that's coming in, stop looking for them to be for you. They're not going to be for you because you told people not to mail them in.
He did in the 11th hour, though. I saw somebody put up a post like October 7th.
Okay, well, guess what? By October 7th, after you don't slow down the mail, system. You don't have them take up mailboxes all over the country. You done messed up the machines in the office. You had cut people's overtime hours. By then, guess what? It's too late. Now, guess whose ballots are coming after the 3rd that can't be counted? Your people. So don't be sitting there like Sealy waiting for the mailman to come and give you a letter, because you ain't getting none. All the letters that's coming in are now for Biden. And now you're going to have to pack your little raggedy old truck up and go on ahead back to Mar-a-Lago, because they don't want you in New York no more. So I don't know what, it is what it is. Let's just be honest. Let's just be truthful about the whole situation. Don't get up here and just start lying or regurgitating stuff that they say, because what they say don't make sense. And we got sense enough to understand it don't make sense. What do you mean liberals hate the CIA, FBI, media corp? No, it's your president who's trying to tear down the CIA, the FBI, and the media. That's him, not us. That's him. That's him. You're not following very well if this is what you think. Liv used to be against the grain. Now you are all buying the deep state. What's the deep state? The QAnon? You believing in a QAnon now? Huh? What's the deep state lies? Come on now. You know what? We're going to continue. Black people used to be skeptical of the FBI. Guess what? Oh, so now this lets me know you're not black. Okay. So guess what? Black people are still skeptical of the FBI and the media. We don't trust none of it. How about that? However, we learn how to carry on. We know how to carry on without it. It's y'all who need to work that out. But anyway, we're going to carry on with our usual broadcast. I thank you so much, TMC 90803.
Yes, TMC 90803.
You get the shout out for the day. We hope that you'll come. We come on here every Thursday at 7, and we cover all kinds of issues dealing with women. We hope that you will come back again. I hope that you are a woman, but if not, that's fine too, because we usually just dedicate our space to women. But you are welcome here anytime. We hope to see you again. Ladies, our regular listeners, Slicky New and Martina and Miss Beatrice, Dion, we got Sonia, Vora, Denise, who else? We got everybody. Sonia, I said Sonia, right?
I saw Sherry,
Christy. We thank you. We hope you'll join
us. Shout out to Sweetback.
Shout out to Sweet. Oh, I didn't see Sweetback. Yeah, shout out to Sweetback. We hope that you will join us again before we get out of here. Just really quick, I just wanted to mention Goodfellas Debris and Snow Removal. Their phone number is streaming across the bottom. It is 201-538-4326. This is not really going to be a regular thing that we do on our program unless somebody is trying to pay us. But I have to give Goodfellas a shout out because they came and they removed my my hot water heater for me. Did an excellent job. We thank and appreciate you. So guys, if you need some debris and snow removal, please reach out to Goodfellas at 201-538-4326. We appreciate you all for hanging out with us in the ladies' room. Next week we will be back. But then after that, we're going to have a couple of weeks off for the holiday. We hope to see you again next week.
Don't forget about us. Shout out to DY. I heard was in the building. DJ One Scratch.
Okay. Let's see. I don't see DY, but I'm sure
I don't know. Sherry said it.
Oh, because he's security. Since it's security.
Mm-hmm.
But we love you.
Happy birthday, DY.
Oh, that's right. His birthday was it yesterday?
It passed. I think it passed.
Yesterday. It was yesterday. Happy birthday, DY. I think I've covered everything. We love you.
If we didn't call your name, take it from the head, not from the heart. We love you all. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in, all our faithful viewers. We love you so much. Thank you for your support.
John Jay, we see you. We see you. That's most important. This is the village, and we see you.
Thank you, ladies. Bye.